All right, so what do we do? What did Gerson find out? He found out that, first of all chronic disease is based on two major factors. The two factors are deficiency and toxicity. Not what you think. You might be thinking of the causes of cancer or the causes of any disease. They are underlying causes, deficiency and toxicity. So where does the deficiency come from? Essentially, from the food you're eating. The food you're eating is manufactured, is depleted, is bleached, is processed, is cooked and fried and emulsified and jarred and pickled and preserved and has all kinds of things done to it, so the live substances are gone. You're not getting enzymes. You're not really getting most of the vitamins. Well, bread, for instance. Take white bread. Okay, they take the hull off, which has most of the B vitamins. Now you have the white kernel. They take the seed, what's it called, the kernel, off of the wheat so that it doesn't spoil, because it has essential fatty acids in it. So the flour or the bread would spoil and get rancid. So they take that away, which has the vitamin E in it. Then they bleach it, make it nice and white, right? But then, in order for the bugs not to get in it, they put preservatives in it, okay? And the maggots won't go in it. They can't survive on this kind of depleted food. But they tell you it is now enriched. Now they put 5 minimal amounts of vitamins or minerals in there to replace the 22 or 3 that they have removed. Now they call it enriched. So you get essentially white flour with this bleached and toxic and depleted, and which has a minimal thing of artificial pharmaceutical materials added instead of getting natural foods. That's the bread our kids are supposed to develop bodies on. And of the white rolls they get with their hamburgers and frankfurters, with zero nutrition. Where are the vitamins, minerals, enzymes? Zero. And what are they getting in their hamburgers? Essentially fat and damaged flesh, meat. Now, let's look at meat. Everybody is turned and trained and that meat, you need meat for strength, right? You need meat for energy. You need meat to replace the protein in your body. Well, that's all wrong, because the meat doesn't do it. When you kill animals, first of all, the animals that are fattened in the feedlots have somewhere between 20 and 30% fat. The animals our ancestors ate many hundred years ago, that they would hunt and shoot and kill in the woods and in the fields. They lived out in the open and free-ranging. They had up to 3% fat. Our pigs nowadays have 40 to 60% fat. The boars in the wilderness have 3% fat. I ran across an item just the other day which says that in Europe, when pigs are carried in their railroads to market, 10% die of heart attacks before they ever get there. That's how fat they are. And that fat is supposed to nourish you? Now something else has come up. Of course, the fat does damage to you. It deposits in your arteries, it causes your atherosclerosis, it causes heart attacks and strokes, it causes phlebitis, it causes high blood pressure, kidney damage, etc., etc. Now, the meat you eat, when the animals are slaughtered, they smell death, they have fear. And with the fear, their adrenals start to secrete. And with the adrenaline in the blood, they are now killed, slaughtered. Then they're aged. Now the adrenaline is toxic. When a cat catches a mouse or a bird, it doesn't kill it right away and eat it right away. It's not cruel when it plays with its prey. It's not play. It makes it move around when it's almost dead, but not quite. It makes it activate a little bit, because during the hunting, the animal secretes adrenaline, and that's toxic to the predator. And he won't eat it until the animal, while its liver is still functioning, neutralizes some of these substances, gets them out of the bloodstream, and when the bloodstream is clear, now he'll kill and eat this animal. What do? We do the opposite. We eat the flesh with the adrenaline in it, toxic. Then we let it age and putrefy. What is aging? It's putrefying. Flesh putrefies, it goes into rigor mortis. The protein in the muscle changes, is no longer normal. And then we cook it. And in cooking, we kill 2 of the essential amino acids. L-lysine, L-tryptophan are killed in cooking. All right? Then, now last April, research was just completed at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden. A PhD researcher found that when meat is heated 212 degrees or over, in other words, cooked, broiled, boiled, fried, the protein in it deteriorates and breaks down into so-called polycyclic amides, which are toxic and cause colon cancer. Now, in 1978 already, a U.S. government study before a special panel, Senate Select Committee on Nutrition and Human Needs, they found that meat eaters in our population have 10 times the colon cancer of non-meat eaters who, for religious reason or any reason at all, Seventh-day Adventists or otherwise vegetarians, have 10% of the colon cancer of meat eaters. Okay? So don't ever believe that you need to eat meat, fish, cheese, chicken, eggs, and any of those animal substances. They are not good nutrition. I'm vegetarian. I'm going to be 70 next month. I will show you that I can sit here and do a lecture for 6 hours and still help with selling and so on and function. And I tell you frankly, if I eat meat, I can't. That's what wears me down and spoils my energy. Okay? So that's the first thing. You want to eliminate almost all of the animal proteins. The fresh, live, active substances in fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, fresh salads is what nourishes your body. That's the nutrients your body needs. And that's the nutrients with which we heal. But that's nowhere nearly enough. With the Gerson therapy, when we are getting terminally ill patients, severely depleted, where the body has actually collapsed and doesn't fight anymore, and the disease takes over and kills, then you have to do a lot more than just eat different. Now, with the Gerson therapy, we give the patients a fresh glass of juice made from organic fruits and vegetables, free of sprays and poisons. We give a fresh glass of juice every hour, 8 ounces of carrot juice with apple. Carrot, you know, beta-carotene activates the immune system. And they are very high in minerals, all the minerals you want to name. Magnesium and manganese and zinc and copper and, of course, calcium and potassium and the trace minerals, they're all there in carrots. Plus the beta-carotene. Plus, carrot juice has 1.4% protein. The right kind of protein, the vegetarian protein that your body can assimilate. It's an extremely valuable food. We also give the patients 4 glasses of freshly made juices from fresh greens, salad greens and various other greens, rich in cholesterol rich in chlorophyll, yes, and of course rich in iron and rich in the enzymes and active materials. Then we give the patients a total of 13 glasses of these juices, 1 glass of orange juice for breakfast. Orange juice isn't all that valuable. The vegetable juices are much more important and are much higher in protein. And that's not all. 13 glasses of juice, 1 fresh glass every hour. Then we also give the patients a full vegetarian meal. They're not being starved. A full vegetarian meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, with fresh salad, fresh soup, everything freshly made, free of salt, free of fat, and fresh vegetables, baked potatoes or other forms of potatoes, and fruit. And guess what? Usually within the first week or so, they have appetite again. Also those who couldn't eat at all. Also those who were nauseated. Also those who've had chemo. They can eat again. And we can get all the nutrients in the fresh live form. So why don't we just give them pills? Why don't we just give them a bunch of mineral and vitamin pills and enzyme pills? Very simple. The more damaged the body, the more toxic, the more depleted, the less it can work with pharmaceutical chemicals. And that's what the pills are. It won't assimilate. We had a patient who came to us, and she had been diagnosed with colon cancer. But for a number of months, she had taken a whole handful of vitamins because of a nutritionist who gave her all kinds of vitamins, handfuls of vitamins every day. But then somebody told her, well, you shouldn't really take that many vitamins, so she stopped taking them. About 8 months before she had a GI series and was diagnosed, and they found the cancer, okay? 8 months she hadn't taken any of those pills, yet in the ascending colon, they found dozens of them in the X-ray. They were not assimilated, they were not diluted, not digested, they were just sitting there. I mean, you can stuff them in your mouth. What shows you, what tells you, what guarantees that they're going to be dissolved and assimilated, that they go into your cell systems? But the fresh juices do. The fresh juices have another extremely important activity. When you drink 13 8-ounce glasses, let's see, 12 is 3 quarts, right? Plus the 13th, plus we also have the soup. It's almost a gallon of liquid a day. What do you think that does to your kidneys? Flushes out, starts to cleanse your kidneys. All right? So, the other problem that we have to deal with, toxicity and deficiency. Deficiency we are starting to build up with all those foods and juices. The other problem, toxicity. How do we deal with that? Now, that was one of the greatest genius contributions of my father's. First of all, to recognize the problem of toxicity, which orthodox medicine still doesn't recognize. If they did, they wouldn't give you pills. They wouldn't give you the high blood pressure medication and the blood thinner medication and the other drugs that you get for all kinds of problems, and the sleeping pills and the whatever they give you. Because all drugs, please look it up in the physician's desk reference guide, don't take my word for it. All drugs, bar none, are liver toxic, have damaging side effects. So the damage, the toxins in the body, the toxins from your food, your bleached and emulsified and dyed and preserved foods that you've been eating for years and years. The excess fats and proteins in the fatty meats and fish and chicken and cheese and eggs that your body can no longer properly deal with and break down. These produce toxins in your body. And then once you develop disease, whether it's cancer or lupus or anything else, the disease tissue produces toxins in your body. Now, how do we get rid of those? I've already told you, the beginning is by flushing it out with a lot of live active substances with juices. Now, why don't we just drink water and take pills? Because water isn't always clean. And even if you drink distilled water, it doesn't give you anything. No nutrients go into your body. The body desperately needs nutrients when it's ill, chronically damaged. And the other way we do is Dr. Gerson developed, and I'm sure you've heard, of coffee enemas. Now, the colon, there are books written about the importance of cleansing the colon, and there's a book written by the title of Death Starts in the Colon and talks about enemas and cleanses. That's all very good. But the coffee is different. The coffee makes all the difference because the caffeine is absorbed through the hemorrhoidal vein into the portal system, and at the liver, it goes directly to the liver. And at the point of the liver, it helps to open the bile ducts. And for the first time now, the liver can get rid of these accumulated toxins, which otherwise accumulate in the liver, and block it. Toxins are also defined as enzyme inhibitors. So as long as there are toxins in the body, enzyme inhibitors The enzyme systems can't work. You can't digest properly. You can't assimilate properly. You can't break down the fats and proteins to the end products. They accumulate in your body. They cause damage. Well, all of this has to be released, overcome. Plus, all the years and years that you have taken in food chemicals. Now, the FDA has approved something like 10,000 food chemicals of emulsifiers and dyes and food preservatives and all kinds of things that you put in cans and jars and pickled and preserves and bottled foods and in boxed foods and so on. All the preservatives and so on. They're all toxic. The FDA says they are safe. They are not safe. You're getting them into your system daily. They are not safe. You can't do that. But over the years, when you accumulate this stuff, your body is bound to deteriorate, is bound to eventually break down. Now, it's very important. There were two researchers in Japan by the name of Yamagiwa and Ichikawa, who were painting rabbits' ears. Now, this goes back to the 30s. They were painting rabbits' ears with tars. Now, you know, tars are carcinogenic and eventually cause cancer. But they were surprised that it took so long for the cancer to develop. So after 3 months of painting all these rabbits, they took one group and sacrificed them and examined them. And they found that, yes, there was some damage to the essential organs. The essential organs being the liver, the kidney, the pancreas, the spleen, the heart, the brain, the lungs, the essential organs. But no tumors had developed yet. So they continued, the other animals, they continued painting their ears. After 6 months, they killed another group. No tumors had developed yet, not one. And they examined the next group. Now there was extensive damage to the essential organs. It took 7, 8 to 9 months before the first tumors appeared. In other words, until there's extensive, severe damage to all the essential organ systems, you're not even going to develop chronic disease, especially as serious as cancer. Now, what does orthodox medicine do with the tumor? It cuts it off. What have they done to restore the damage to the underlying organ systems? Nothing. Because first of all, they don't understand the deficiency problem. Secondly, they don't know what to do with the toxicity problem. So is it surprising that in almost all patients the cancer comes back? So they do radiation. They kill some of the tumor cells. But that just adds to the damage. It can kill some of the cells, but new ones are going to develop because the body's defenses are not functioning. And they give chemotherapy. Now they poison the defenses. They poison the immune system. They poison the bone marrow. They poison the kidneys and the liver. That's supposed to cure anything? It poisons the tumor tissue sometimes a little faster than the healthy tissue. So often the tumors go down for a while, temporarily, until the rest of the tissue gives out too. And then it comes back. And then they do more chemo, but the new cells that develop are resistant to chemo. That doesn't work anymore. Therefore, it's really useless. It doesn't go. You can't do that. You cannot heal with poisoning. We do the opposite. We detoxify. We help the body get rid of poisons. We restore the enzyme systems. Now, Otto Warburg, a twice Nobel Prize winner, showed that one of the major things that you have to have is proper oxygen development and use in the body, that the food that you eat needs to be oxidized in the cell systems into energy. Every cell needs energy. Now, in order to do all of this, you need enzyme activity. Toxins are enzyme inhibitors. So if there's too much inhibition of enzymes, the cell system is no longer oxidized. Now they have to, in order to stay alive, they have to use this energy and turn it into fermentative energy to stay alive. But the fermentative energy does only one thing within the cell, and that was developed later, that was shown later. With fermentative energy, the cell can only grow and split and grow and split and grow and split uncontrolled. And what's that? Cancer. So when you get enough toxins, enough damage to the enzyme systems, and not getting any fresh enzymes into your bodies because of the depleted, dead, cooked foods that you eat, and the enzyme systems are blocked because of the toxins, and you get into fermentative energy production, that's the beginning of cancer. But that is not necessarily cancer, because a normal, healthy body with the immune system working recognizes these malignant cells as foreign cells, and they'll attack and destroy them. So why doesn't it destroy the cells? Because the immune system is also toxic and not working. What is the immune system? It's made up of cells, of organ systems. They too need live, active nutrients. They too are blocked with excess protein and excess fats and excess chemicals and excess sodium, salt in the system. Dr. Gerson showed that the beginning of all chronic disease was loss of potassium from the cell systems and invasion of sodium, salt. In nature, all the foods that we get, the leaves and the fruits and the vegetables and the roots and the seeds, whatever we eat, very high in potassium, low in sodium. And that's how over the millennia our bodies developed to live on this type of food. That's what we need. But when foods are processed and cooked and jarred and preserved, always the potassium is lost and always sodium is added. So we completely change, we reverse the mineral balances that we need. Sodium, the salt, has to stay in, we do need a little bit, has to stay in the fluid systems, in the blood and serum. But the potassium has to stay within the cell systems because they activate the enzymes. The potassium activates enzymes. Sodium is an enzyme inhibitor. And if it penetrates the cells, your cells can't work anymore. But why does it penetrate the cells? Because the foods you eat are so damaged, are so changed, your potassium has been lost, sodium has been added, that you're constantly flooding the body with excess sodium and not enough potassium. And eventually the body can no longer get rid of it. The body has many systems to try desperately to get rid of excess sodium. You get rid of it in perspiration, you get rid of it in urine, you get rid of it in feces, you get rid of it also even in your tears and your mucus. But the body is constantly flooded with it and not getting enough potassium. And eventually it can no longer function that way and collapses. And this collapse, whether it's now the immune system, the enzyme system, the pancreas, whether it's the digestive system, whether it's the skin or the fat digestive system, or the pancreas for the diabetes, makes no difference. Actually, I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. Diabetes is not a problem of the pancreas. It's not even a sugar problem. The age onset diabetes is a fat digestion problem. In very large numbers of diabetics, they find there's adequate insulin in the bloodstream. So why do they have diabetes? It's because the insulin can't reach the insulin receptors within the cell systems. The receptors within the cell are blocked with cholesterol, fat. It's the meat eating that's largely responsible. And the milk and the protein and all animal proteins are high in fat. The meat and the fish and the cheese and the chicken and the eggs, high in fat. They block the insulin receptors and the insulin can't get there. So what do we have to do? Cut out the animal products, the fats, and give vegetables. And give juices. So high in sugars, no problem. Once you get rid of the excess cholesterol, the insulin works, and you're fine. And that is something Orthodox medicine doesn't admit or see either. Once you have diabetes, right, you have to take insulin for the rest of your life. Very few doctors have ever understood that you can control diabetes with diet, proper food. But it doesn't really matter what you call the disease. When you are able to flood the body with nutrients, as we do, with the 13 juices plus the 3 vegetarian meals, These patients are able to ingest the equivalent of 20 pounds of fresh food a day. 20 pounds. Now, there's no way you can eat that. But you can drink a glass of juice every hour. Rich in all the nutrients. And they rebuild the organs, whether it's bones, whether it's the stomach, whether it's the liver, whether it's the kidney, doesn't matter. When those nutrients go back into the organ systems, the body heals. Let me give you an interesting example. We had a man who was only about 51. He had prostate cancer, unusual in a man that young. Usually comes 60, 65, 70. He was only 51, had prostate cancer. Was discovered because he also had constant kidney colics. Very painful kidney colics. They couldn't find stones. Whether there were stones or not, I don't know. It's immaterial. So he had the kidney colics and he had the prostate cancer. He was also on full disability as a fire chief because he had 3 herniated discs. And the disc, his spine was pressing on the sciatic nerve, and he was in constant pain, plus his left thigh, normal thigh, had gone down by 50% atrophied because of the pressure on the sciatic nerve. So he came to the Gerson, he also had high blood pressure, came to the Gerson therapy because of the cancer. Within the first day, from the first day on, he never once had another kidney colic. Never once. Kidney colics are protein related, and we don't give animal proteins, no more problems. His high blood pressure was gone in 6 days, as we have in most patients. Normal blood pressure. Drugs, no more drugs. Okay? Then he had the problem of the herniated disc and the cancer. And 2 years from the start of the therapy, he went back to the original doctor who was the head of oncology at the University of California in Santa Barbara, top-notch man, had himself re-examined, prostate's clean. And now he also had an x-ray of his spine. Now he was on total disability because of herniated discs, okay? X-ray of the spine shows perfectly normal spine, discs rebuilt, okay? And his thigh, almost completely, not quite 100%, 92-3% rebuilt. Unheard of, doesn't exist. So I asked him, he was here and I was showing him as a recovered patient. So I asked him, hey, you were on full disability for your herniated discs and the pain in your spine and the atrophy and you couldn't work. Did they take the disability payments away? He was fine. He says, no. They didn't believe it. And well, what's to believe when you see an x-ray? When you see the normal thigh? When you see the man is up and about and functioning without pain? No, it doesn't exist, therefore we don't believe it. Okay? So what are we going to do with people like that? Are these doctors? Are they scientists? We get other things too. I had a lady who came back to the hospital and she wanted to pick up some of the enzymes and minerals that she was taking. And she says, hello, Charlotte. And I must admit that we've had several thousand patients and I do not remember everybody. So she said, you don't remember me. I was at the hospital 3.5 years ago. I had breast cancer and liver metastases. That in itself is an interesting statement. Once there's cancer in the liver, with orthodox treatment, you have 3 to 6 months to live, period. That's it, and there is no recovery from cancer in the liver, okay? So 3.5 years, she tells me, she had cancer in the liver. I said, well, I'm very happy, and I'm glad you're doing well. What did your doctor say? Now, when a doctor sees something unusual like that, if he were a true scientist, wouldn't he be interested to say, what did you do? No, no. What did her doctor say? Well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. It's doing you good. But don't bother me with it, right? He didn't want to know. Unfortunately, of course, it's not entirely his fault. There are laws. The law in California says any physician who treats cancer with anything but radiation, surgery, or chemotherapy is a felon, goes to jail, loses his license, and pays a $10,000 fine, so he can't do anything with it. Even if he knows. There are laws against healing cancer. The law now says if, for instance, a patient has cancer, has been treated with surgery, radiation, and chemo, and is failing and dying, the doctor is not allowed to try anything else. He must use only those treatments that have already proven to be failures. Which means the state now requires you to die, and that's unconstitutional. I do not believe that if that law were ever tested that it would stand up. But the powers, the chemotherapy and medical pharmaceutical powers with their billions behind them, keep this kind of thing going, and you and I don't have the kind of money to fight it. They can keep us in court for years. We don't have that kind of money. We can't pay for the lawyers. Okay? So the law stands, and you have to die because that's what the chemotherapy and chemical pharmaceutical trust is saying. It's very bad. Besides, not just in California, there are other states that have similar or the same laws. Why do you think we have to function in Mexico? That's the reason. If you want to heal, you can't do it in the U.S. Now, healing is very special. Healing, in my book, is not cutting out a bunch and cutting out a tumor, is not radiating a damaged area. Healing is not dealing with a symptom, which will just come back. Healing is not giving a drug that causes damage and causes new disease. If you take a drug for high blood pressure for long enough, you're going to get new problems. Then you get kidney problems, and you have a drug for the kidney, Lasix or something like that. And that causes your potassium to be lost. Then you have to take other drugs. Pretty soon you're on a list of drugs this long, and you haven't gotten rid of the disease. You just got new diseases because of the drug damage. That, in my book, is not healing. Healing is totally restoring all the underlying systems. Is restoring the kidneys and the liver and the essential organs, the spleen and the lungs and the heart and the brain. Everything needs to be fully restored and function well. Then the body will heal. And as Dr. Gerson said, the body's own healing mechanism works again. And whether you are healing bones or you're healing infections, or whether you are healing old chronic hepatitis or Epstein-Barr or this so-called chronic fatigue syndrome, or whether you're healing lupus or anything else, or cancer or diabetes, makes no difference. And that's where, of course, we clash with orthodox medicine. They say, what do you mean? One treatment for every disease? That's quackery. That's very difficult. It takes the basic understanding, and that they haven't got. Doctors in medical school do not have courses in biochemistry, and that's where we're dealing, the underlying biochemistry of the whole body. And we have to address all the systems. And we don't just push a little here and shove a little there. We work with the immune system, the enzyme system, the hormone system. We work with the minerals. We work with the digestion. We work with the detoxifying. Every part of the body has to be restored and reactivated so that you can truly heal. But that's what we do. And that's where we have these healed patients. And it doesn't matter of what disease. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get too many people to come here today. We have only 2 recovered patients we'll be showing you. But these 52, that's not the only ones we have. We have hundreds and hundreds of terminally ill, so-called incurable patients that are not living a few extra months, that are recovered for years. And the way they got into these lists is because they're exceptionally well documented, unquestionable, because they're well and recovered for at least 3 years or more. We don't want to take the patients who are only better for 3 or 6 months. Then the author can do that too. Of course, fine. But we have the total recoveries, 3, 4, 6, 8 years. And we have, from Dr. Gerson's book, okay, he says a cancer therapy results of 50 cases. Now he said, and we still say today, the bottom line is the only thing that counts. Does the patient get well and stay well in good, normal, functioning, active life? Okay? Now, of these 50 patients that he showed, there were a number that were young enough. Now, the book was written in 59, in 58. Father died in 59. There were a number that were young enough in 58 to be alive today, and they are. These were terminally ill patients. And we have been able to find at least a dozen of those that were young enough, alive and well today, an active life, busy and working and fine. One of the patients who had terminal melanoma at the time, her husband said she had at most 3 months to live. And that was in 1942 or 3. 46, I don't remember the exact number. She came to the clinic just a month ago. She as well. She came to the hospital because her daughter-in-law has cancer. She is 74 and well, active and looking well and busy and with her family and her grandchildren, okay, in good condition. After 45 years, that's healing. That's not cutting out a piece or a symptom or a lump. That's healing, because she was given 3 months to live at that time. And many of these patients are still alive, and we are still finding some of Dr. Gerson's patients who were not in the book, because in order to get in the book, they've had to be well at least 4 or 5 years. And there were others that were well a little shorter time. My father was, at the time he died, he was preparing another book with 100 more cases. Well, of those, we still find a whole bunch that are alive and well. True healing, getting to the underlying problem, healing not only the cancer, but all the other problems that do occur in many patients, and many other diseases. That's true healing. And that's where the Gerson therapy cannot be equaled. And I do unfortunately have to say, for instance, in many cases, Laetrile can be helpful. You may have heard of Laetrile. Laetrile helps the body fight tumor tissue, but it doesn't restore the liver and the kidneys and the immune system. And when you stop the Laetrile, the cancer keeps right on going and you die. That's not healing. We can use Laetrile, we do sometimes. It can be a help. It can help to destroy malignant tissue, but it doesn't restore and heal the body. It doesn't overcome the high blood pressure and the kidney disease and all the other problems that these patients suffer from, because it specifically attacks tumor tissue. Well, good. And as long as it's non-toxic, yes, we'll use it. But it doesn't heal, meaning restore, rebuild, reactivate. And that's the key. And for that, you have to reach the underlying problems. And the underlying problems are deficiency and toxicity. You have to rebuild, replenish, juices, and the fresh foods. Everything organic. Why? Because you don't want to get the chemicals and the residual insecticides and pesticides into the system. But that isn't all. I'll cover more of that in my workshop later. When foods are grown on deficient soil, artificially fertilized with 3 minerals, NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Well, that's good. But the soil needs something like 51 or 2 minerals. Where's the magnesium and the manganese, and where's the zinc and the copper, and where's the calcium and all the other things the plants need, plus the trace minerals that should be there? It's not in the NPK. So with the artificial fertilizer, the plants get 3 out of 51 minerals. So the plants are deficient. And when plants are deficient, like any other creature in nature that's deficient, nature destroys it. It sends in the bugs, it sends in the disease to destroy this deficient creature. Now the farmers come crying to the chemical companies that sell them the fertilizer and say, hey, we are having pests, and we are having insects, and we are having fungus, and we are having disease, and we are losing our plants. What shall we do? We have something we can sell you. Now come the sprays, and the pesticide and insecticide and antifungal and all of the other stuff. And it goes into the plant. It's often sprayed while the plant is still in bloom. It's often planted like potatoes are planted with a chemical right next to it. It goes into the plant. You can't wash it off. You can't peel it off. It's in the plant. Plus, these minerals are lacking. So you're getting deficient, toxic food. And you can't heal a deficient, toxic body with deficient, toxic food. That's why we insist on organically grown fruits and vegetables, free of poisons. Then some people tell me, well, then if I can't eat the fresh raw foods because they have chemical residues, I'll eat the canned and frozen food. But they have the same problem. Not only that, they have additional chemicals added. That's not the answer. That won't do. Okay?